The book, called Find Me the Votes, went to press shortly before the stunning news of a romantic relationship between Willis and an outside lawyer she'd hired to serve as special prosecutor in the case, Nathan Wade. But in the course of researching the book, Mike and Dan got to know Willis quite well. They interviewed her something like 6 times over many hours and came away with a nuanced portrait of her as, they say, a complicated and very human person. So they're very well positioned to talk about this latest turn of events involving Willis and Wade and what it means, and to talk as well, of course, about all that went into the development of the complex racketeering case against Trump and 18 others.
We're going to open up to questions in 1 second. But let's do the Fani.
Yeah. What you mean the current?
The current Fani.
The elephant in the room.
Let's do the elephant in the room,
Right,
and then we'll take questions.
All right. I mean, look. Obviously, this was having a relationship with the chief prosecutor was not a smart move on her part. It was a misjudgment, a lapse in judgment. Not the only one.
Any of you know what we're talking about here?
I think they all do. Yeah, right. It was a lapse in judgment. Not the only one she's made. And we talk about, the previous time she'd been reamed out by a judge for sponsoring a fundraiser for her friend who was running against one of her targets, Burt Jones, who was one of the fake electors. And that was a "what were you thinking" moment, the judge said to her. Look, I think that, there is a arrogance to her, a bravado and braggadocio.
She's a trial lawyer.
She's a trial lawyer.
One of the best trial lawyers that ever graced the courtrooms of Fulton County, and sometimes trial lawyers, like fighter pilots, can carry themselves with a certain amount of bravado and certitude.
Which can big egos.
Yeah, and have big egos. Yeah.
So but look, that said, I mean, I think that the filing that she made on Friday should go a long way to diffusing this controversy. The relationship did not begin until after he was hired, so that takes away the idea that she hired her lover. And that, on the trips, she paid for plenty on the trips, other trips, and, they assert that it was roughly equal. If that's the case and no evidence is presented that contradicts what they've said, and it's hard to imagine these are two professionals who have their law licenses on the line. I can't imagine that they would have, falsely put in an affidavit from Wade and Wade back it. But let me just say, I got one more point to make.
Go ahead.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. At the end of the day, they're going to get before the judge, and the judge, McAfee, is likely to ask Ashley Merchant, the lawyer for Michael Roman, the defendant who filed this motion, can you explain exactly how the relationship between the DA and Nathan Wade prejudiced your client? And I have no idea how she could possibly answer that, because there simply is no evidence that it prejudiced their client. No violation of any constitutional rights. No prejudice involved in the case.
Just very quickly to follow up on what Mike's saying. Look, at the end of the day, the judge has to make a decision as to whether to grant the motion, i.e. disqualify Fani Willis and her whole team, or dismiss the case. Based on what the laws are in Georgia, based on precedents, and the reality is that the conflict, finding a conflict of interest that would require disqualification is a very high bar. And it's not just an appearance of a conflict; it's an actual conflict, and the conflict has to be, that there was you had some financial or other interest in the case that in the outcome of the case, and I think it's very hard to make that case. Or the theory is, which I think is pretty strained, is because she was paying him here's an opportunity to drag out this case against the President of the United States so that we can go on Caribbean cruises. I mean, I just don't. And the judge is a very careful, thoughtful guy. I don't think that's going to hold water with him.
Subscribe!